evening. Welcome to Soni Irabor Live. Well, today, June 12 was just 2 days ago, and a lot of things have happened since then. But we are focusing on democracy, June 12, and our special guest is Mr. Jamiu MKO Abiola, the son of the late democracy president that never became president of Nigeria. There's so many things we will discuss about all that anyway. However, the question would then be the legacy he left behind, the loss to the family, and the unfinished business of democracy. Well, let's think about all of these things and look at how we have, tried to jumpstart, how we have stumbled and walked, shuffled, and done everything as the case may be since June 12, 1993. And this is June 14 today, 2 days after, 2025. How has it been? We'll be right back when we join Jamiu MKO Abiola. Welcome back. Well, as I said earlier, we're dealing with Abiola's legacy, family loss, and indeed what the whole business of, the unfinished business of democracy means for Nigeria. So, Mr. Jamiu Biodun Abiola, you're welcome to the program. Can you hear me?
Thank you very much.
Yes, good.
I can hear you.
What does June 12 mean to you before we talk about anything else?
Well, June 12 means to me the day my life changed completely. And not just my life, the life of Nigeria as a nation changed completely. June 12 is a turning point in the history of our country, trajectory of our country. It's the day in which, to me, we achieved our peak. When I talk about our peak, since our independence, we have been looking for something that we can hold on to, a strong ideal that can unify us and help us progress. Just like the Americans have the American dream, other countries have their ideals that they use as a foundation for their growth. We in Nigeria, since independence, have been looking and looking for something that we can use as a way, as a foundation to grow. And June 12 came, and it came to play that role. The beauty of June 12 is that for the first time in the history of Nigeria, there was no tribalism, there was no religious discrimination. Everybody voted with one voice for what they believed to be competent leadership. And since then, the country has seen, to me, that should be a standard for the country. And we should always use June 12 as a way to always find ourselves again. So whenever we think we are going astray, we should think about June 12 and find our way back. And we should hold on to the principles of June 12. The principles of equality, fairness, lack of discrimination, lack of religious discrimination, and lack of ethnic bias. That is going to be the unifying factor that will take Nigeria to the next level. That's what June 12 means to me.
Good. Well, you've covered the two now, about Nigeria and yourself. What about the family? How's the whole talk about loss? The loss of MKO Abiola. The loss of MKO Abiola. How does the family feel, including you? It's been many years.
It was a very big tragedy.
Yeah.
Because the loss is,
go on, please.
It's monumental. We never expected it to happen like that. What was meant to have been a source of victory, a source of relief, a source of glory, now became a source of sorrow, a source of melancholy. So the first reaction was negative. The family was not happy about that tragedy. But as time went on, we now became more spiritual, more religious, and we believe that if this is the price the family has to pay for Nigeria, which has 250 million or 230 million people to move forward, then it's a worthy cause, because people are going to die regardless of whether there's June 12 or there's no June 12. Apart from the loss of MKO Abiola, my mother, Alaja Abiola, was also killed as well. So it was a double loss for my family. But as I said, with time, we've come to realize that this is a sacrifice that we took, and we made in the interest of Nigeria. And if democracy can flourish in this country, then definitely it's a cause worth dying for, and it's a cause worth living for.
Now, the thing is, it was a lost opportunity for Nigeria, and it was indeed an opportunity that we would have had MKO himself become president. As you have said, you know, it was detribalized and all of that. How did that affect, one, the nation, two, Africa, and then look at the world? Because if you look at from then till now, things are not the same anywhere in the world. I don't think democracy is really as it is practiced or it was defined. Would you say so?
Well, I mean, you don't think democracy is practiced as it was defined?
Yes, practiced as I said, today around the world, democracy doesn't appear to be really what it was defined to be. Government of the people, for the people, by the people, and so on and so forth. Nigeria had an opportunity and lost it. Okay? So, as it turned out, sorry about that. As it turned out, if you can hear me, as it turned out, we lost that opportunity June 1993. Now, since then, Nigeria has been stumbling and shuffling. It's been so many years since then, and there have been several governments. How would you now rate Nigeria governance-wise?
Well, you know, the truth of the matter is that anything in this world that if you start something, it's going to take a long time for you to master the game. Now, if you look at America, America has been democratic for centuries. Nigeria has only got democracy returned to Nigeria in 1999, which is like 26 years from now. So we cannot really expect things to be perfect. And we're going to make a lot of mistakes. Just like a child, you know, when it's born, it doesn't start to run. It starts by crawling and crawling, then it falls and it falls, then it walks, then it runs.
We're having a little bit of, we'll take a short break because it seems that the sound has frozen. Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you very well.
Okay, good.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Now, a moment
what
there
was...
was...
that democracy... Pardon?
Yes, go on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please. Yes. We can hear you.
What I'm trying to say is that democracy is just like anything else in life. It has to take, you know, time for it to become perfect. So I don't think we should focus much on the negative, you know, aspects of what has happened over the years. I know that we're going to get it right, but for us to get it right, we have to be optimistic. If we keep focusing on the mistakes that, you know, various democratic governments have made, that will take away the optimism required for us to make democracy a success in Nigeria. So I think, yes, some people are disappointed, and they have the right to be disappointed. But with this particular government, in which I serve as Senior Special Assistant to the President on Linguistics and Foreign Matters, I'm privileged to be close enough to the leadership of this country and to actually see firsthand their intent and their determination to turn things around. So I think we should be a little bit optimistic and give, you know, democracy some time, especially this particular administration.
Okay, because of what you just said, which is very interesting, you see, several governments since time past in Nigeria have not dared the way this particular government has dared the citizens of Nigeria. What do I mean by daring? Daring in the sense that the economic situation was always being pushed aside. People were just moving on. Governance was moving on. But now we are told subsidy is not there, this one is not there, and so the danger of facing serious economic strife is there. How do we handle it? And you are now saying this government appears to be, let me hear you say something. Should I finish what I was going to say?
Okay.
Yeah.
You are more or less asking how this government is going to actually handle the economic situation that the country finds itself.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you said it yourself that other governments, you know, since we're going on and going on, you know, there's a saying that it's only a mad person that does the same thing and expects a different result. In all these years and all these decades, or like 26 years of democracy, nobody can say that they're happy with the way Nigeria was going. It's like a ticking time bomb, you know, and if you have a problem and you ignore it, and you do as if you don't have a problem, then the problem will just keep growing and growing, and eventually the problem would consume you. So personally, this government decided that we cannot keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the same result. We have to take things in a different direction. The issue of subsidy, the government removed it because it was used for a lot of corruption was taking place through subsidy. Of course, there's a lot of relief for Nigeria. The price of petrol was low. But if you look at what was actually being lost, in comparison to what some people were gaining, it's not in the advantage of Nigerians in the whole. The government, in the first year of removing subsidy, saved $10 billion, and government channeled, most of this to state governors so that they can have enough money to do a lot of infrastructure. And a lot of, so government has actually had a purpose. Even government on its own has done a lot of things that we never ever expected a government in Nigeria to do. If you look at the investment in agriculture, tractors, we look at mechanized farming, this government knows exactly what the problem is and the government wants to solve it. But they just had to do this drastic policy changes, because if it wasn't done, what would have happened would have been worse. It would have gotten to a situation in which you want to go to the bank to withdraw 20,000 naira, and they will only give you 5,000 because the economy would have completely collapsed, like it has in some South American countries. And I think that would have been much worse than what we're actually facing right now. But the government averted that crisis from happening. And that is why, we have to look at it from that angle as well when we are judging the government. So okay. I think we should give the government more time. Let's see what's going to come out of the tax policies. And that tax policy, by the way, the new tax reform, protects the poor and the vulnerable. They're not affected by it. Government is going to tax the rich, and it's going to make sure that the government generates enough income so that if the price of oil drops, government will not always be looking at, it's from what we get from outside that we're going to use to take care of what government is to do in Nigeria. We're going to have a more self-sufficient, system of handling the affairs of this country. So I think we should be very, very optimistic, very, very patient, and we should believe in this government.
Let me ask you, what would your father have done? Understandably, that was about 27 or more years ago that he's passed now. But under the circumstance, Nigeria has been shuffling and shuffling, experimenting as it were. Would you have seen, what would your father have done at this time if he were to be in charge? Just if you were thinking like him. Can you hear me?
If my father was in charge,
yes.
I can hear you very well. My father would have done a lot, would have fought corruption, because corruption is like a sickness. Corruption is something that wipes out anything good that happens. And I'll tell you this, for the first time in Nigerian history, the EFCC last year, they had a record conviction rate of 4,111 cases. This has never happened in the history of the EFCC before. So all these things that my father would be fighting the corruption, what my father would have done, is what we see some of the things that the government is doing right now. Because the corruption, we cannot take it away, as in the effect and the impact of corruption. You talk about, and again, one thing people have to keep in mind is that Nigeria is not just federal government. Nigeria is state government. How I wish journalists and others can actually put as much, scrutiny as they are on the federal government as they are state government. Because if you look at the allocations, almost half of the allocation goes to state and local government. And as we all know, local government elections, local government allocations are indirectly controlled by states as well. So most of those allocations, I wish Nigerians could actually put their eyes in it. Federal government is trying to do a new system create a new system in which the state government and local government are going to have access to their funds directly. They wanted to open accounts with CBN where local governments can tap from and all of that. All of this innovative thinking all came from this administration, so that the people in the grassroots can start feeling the impact of the government directly. So we are looking for new ideas, thinking outside the box, and we hope to get more feedback from the public and, to get more ideas. And, everybody working together, we will definitely get to the promised land by the grace of God.
Okay, let's go back to the annulment of June 12th, the presidential election where your father won overwhelmingly. I know nobody is happy about it, not Nigerians, not your family, not you. But they are not met. And then what has gone on over the years and since Babangida's book, what is your reaction to that?
Well, the annulment happened, and when it happened, it was a tragedy, as I said at the beginning of this discourse. But, you know, the annulment happened for a reason. God knows best. It was annulled because the military did not want to leave. Now, General Babangida's book put a new twist to it. They put more of the blame on General Abacha. But whichever way, the military is the military. Whether General Babangida, whether General Abacha is the military. The foreign came from there, and they actually scuttled that opportunity. And the opportunity went and they claimed the life of my parents, and the rest is history. But as I told you before, something bad happened. You know, the good thing that came out of June 12th is we now found what we can use to unify the country. We now have ideals of June 12th that we can use to unify the country. So we have to like stick onto those ideals. We shouldn't always focus on these people that played a negative role on June 12th, because by the time we do that, it will take us away from the best and most important thing, which is to focus on the fact that on June 12th, we attained our peak as a country. We voted against tribalism, we voted against, you know, religious discrimination, and we voted for what we believe to be a competent candidate. And I think we should always go back to that so that we can use the diversity of this country to actually enrich in this country. Because that diversity is what God has given us as a comparative advantage. Without that diversity being used, Nigeria will not attain its manifest destiny.
The legacy that MKO Abiola left behind, do you see it at play yet? Or is something that has gone with the wind?
Well, the legacy that MKO Abiola left behind cannot go with the wind, because a lot of people remember him, and we always talk about him. And I always thank the press, because the press has done a good job in keeping his memory alive. Not recently, 10 years ago, I wrote a book called The President Who Never Ruled, and another book called The Soni Presidency, in which I spoke about my dad, I spoke about his childhood, I spoke about what he stood for, his values, and I spoke about how he became the chairman of ITT, and how he became the billionaire he became, and how he even won the election, and how he was in prison, and how he died. The book is on Amazon. The two books are on Amazon. So these books were written so that his legacy is not buried alive. When I realized over the years that some people were hell-bent on rewriting the history of Nigeria without putting his name there, I decided to jump into action and to save him from being buried alive. I wrote the book in 2015, printed a lot of copies, and gave a lot of copies out to people. It's a bestseller. The two of them are bestsellers. And I think it's important for us to always write our history in Nigeria. It's one thing that we don't do in Africa. We should. The Chinese have been writing their history for more than 22,000 years. We in Africa have to write more of our history so that people don't write it for us.
Okay, now let's look at the family. There are indications that the family, you specifically, have not been too particularly happy about the way the family estate has gone. Can you expatiate on that?
Well, you know, my father, when he was alive, he was a very just, very fair man. He believed in doing things the just way. By the time he died in 1998, he had a number of companies, and he made sure that none of those companies had any child as a shareholder. He made sure that no one single child was a shareholder or a director. And if he makes anybody a director aside from himself, he will put either Alaja Abiola, senior wife, or my mother, Alaja Abiola, his second wife, or Alaja Abiola, his third wife, or Alaja Abiola. He made sure that the wife was the only director other than him, but no shareholder. He made sure that, and he put it in his will, that everything I have should be split equally among my children. So immediately he died, after 4 or 5 years, some members of the family went behind everybody's back, and they put their names in the company, and they started tampering with the company's assets and all that. And they've been going to court, we have been going to court. It's unfortunate that a man like that, with all, you know, what he stood for, being a just man and a freedom fighter, fighting for democracy, will now have some people in his family trying to tarnish his reputation after he died, or trying to destroy his family. But, you know, this is what happened. It's very unfortunate. We are still in court, but I know that definitely, you know, something will happen at the end of the day and the problem will be solved. But it is unfortunate. But it's not something that we should not have expected, because when the annulment happened and he was imprisoned, you know, it left room for a lot of people to be mischievous, which is what usually happens when there's a crisis. People usually tend to take the law in their own hands and they try to manipulate. Unfortunately, what is happening in the family today is also another sad consequence of the June Trump annulment.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, and when we get back, it will be, you know, looking at further your role. That's my guest, Jamiu Abiola, his role in this government, and then other things around the world and how Nigeria is faring on the African continent. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. This is Soni Irabor Live, and our guest is Jamiu Abiola, who is a senior special assistant to the president of Nigeria. Now, Mr. Abiola, thank you for your patience so far. Two things that come to mind. You were particularly hit by the loss of your mother, Kudirat, and then the loss of your father. Now, if you look at these two, how do you see the whole essence if you assess, for example, your mother's assassination and then your father's equally an assassination because of the way he died? What's your reaction to that? I know you were a young man then, but now you are not telling me. Looking back, what do you want to say? You've written the books and all that.
Oh, okay. You know that initially when it happened, I was very traumatized and I was very hurt. But you know, the beauty of all of this is that there's nothing that time doesn't heal. Time heals everything. So at this point, I'm not actually so traumatized anymore. And I'm also more religious. And my religion tells me that when people die like that, they go to heaven. So that gives me a lot of relief that they're in heaven and they're in a better place. They are the ones.
We're having problems with the network. It's a pity. We'll be right back, if you don't mind. This is Soni Irabor Live, and Jamiu Abiola is our guest. Unfortunately, we were having a Zoom experience and hoping that we will get the best of his sound. I think I can hear him now. Please go ahead.
I can hear you.
Yes. Your voice went up for some time. Yeah, your voice went up. Please go ahead.
I believe in God, and I believe that I believe in God, and I know that they're in a better place. So that actually gives me a lot of relief. It gives me a lot of relief. And anybody that did what they did to them are the ones that are actually having the nightmares and the ones that are actually living with the guilt. Because I'm actually emancipated. I don't feel like any pain anymore, because I strongly believe that they're in a better place. And that to me means that means so much. So I'm not in any pain whatsoever. And I really, really respect them for their courage, because what they did is very rare. And I hope that more and more Nigerians can have that courage and that determination to serve their country.
Using your words that they sacrificed a lot for it, the truth is they sacrificed a lot for Nigeria, for democracy, and the way Nigerians see it today. Looking back again, let's see, why did it take Nigeria so long? I'm not asking you to answer that question, but what's your reaction to the length of time it took Nigeria to react favorably to, one, giving a public holiday in his name, and then two, making sure that democracy is marked as a very functional, theme of governance?
Well, it took Nigeria so long because, you see, when the military handed over power back to civilian rule, the military still had a looming influence. They were still very, very influential in what happened and how, this country was being run. It's not like they just handed over power and they walked away. There was still a lot of people working on behalf of the military in the democratic setting that we had. So now we're now having real Democrats coming into play. Look at the current president, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He was a key part of that struggle, and he's somebody that believes in democracy all the way. And he was influential in ensuring that General Buhari won the election in 2015, and he was also influential in ensuring that General Buhari honors, the heroes of June 12th. So the influence of Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu should not be underestimated and should not be disregarded. He is a hero in his own right. He's a crusader. He has done so much for this country's democracy, and we have to applaud him and people like Chief Oshoba and other people that have tried to do so much, and we have to keep remembering them, and we have to keep praying for them, because these are the people that we can refer to as the pillars of Nigeria's democratic foundation, the living pillars.
You see, somebody has said before that Nigeria is a very difficult nation to govern. And this particular, country, the particular government, and the way things have been since 1960 that we gained independence, poverty has hardly not left. Corruption, equally the same problem. Tribalism, ethnicity, now insecurity, everywhere. How would you now manage, or what would be your reaction to some of these anomalies that we are seeing that is staring us in the face? I'm not saying that it's easy for President Tinubu, certainly not.
These are big challenges, but I'll tell you this, there's always a solution for every problem. You know that this government, the reason why people are doing this insecurity, banditry and all of that is because of poverty. Now, we now have a government that creates a Ministry of Livestock, and that ministry target is to promote food security. We now have a Ministry of Regional Development. When you have a Ministry of Regional Development, you are developing different regions. When development is happening across board, who is going to become a bandit? Who wants to become a bandit and risk his life and all of that? When people see a viable option, who will want to throw it away and do as if they can't see? They're not blind. The average Nigerian is a hardworking, honest person. Most of the people that are doing all these terrible things are because they feel like they've been pushed to the wall. The government is going to create jobs, create avenues, create to the fold, and they're going to be gainfully employed. This government is run by a visionary. Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a man with a vision. He's a man with a mission. If you look at Lagos State in 1998 and look at Lagos State now, he did not just rule for 8 years. He actually gave Lagos State a master plan. And that's why, after him, we now had, Governor Fashola, we now had Governor Ambode, we now have this current governor that is there. And these governors are doing well because of that master plan that he left behind. And thank God he's now the president of Nigeria. So let's wait and see what's going to happen between now and middle of next year, by the grace of God.
Okay, fine. We'll wait and see between now and the middle of next year, by the grace of God, quoting you verbatim. But you haven't answered the question of how he intends to tackle corruption, ethnicity, religious problems, insecurity, and all of that.
No, I've answered it.
Go ahead. Go ahead, please. Okay. Yes. We haven't. Okay, he's back. He's back.
Recorded the highest level of the issue of insecurity. I actually mentioned that by the time jobs are created and the local governments are getting their monies that they're supposed to, and the people in the grassroots are able to feel the pulse of the local government, then this issue of banditry, people will not want to risk their lives when they can get another source of income that is more decent, more noble. That's how they're going to tackle it. It's not just about military, it's talk to economic needs. So I've answered the issue of corruption, I've answered the issue of insecurity, and all the other issues. I also mentioned to you that they're looking at food security. Food security through the Ministry of Livestock, which is a branch out of this government. So that alone is also going to tackle poverty. And speaking of poverty, this government has given taken care of 5.7 million households through cash transfers. This government has increased the money that it gives to local.
Which should be true, but it's okay, no problem. This is Soni Irabor live.
Actually helping their people. Okay. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you froze. Your audio froze and your picture froze as well. So we just want to see. Can you please recap what you said again?
What I said was that the issue of corruption was tackled in the sense that EFCC has had the highest level of conviction. I also mentioned that the issue of insecurity is going to be tackled through, creating avenues for the local government and the Ministry of Regional Development and the development commissions that are all over the country to create jobs for a lot of Nigerian youths. Because these Nigerian youths are the ones that are doing this insecurity. When there's an option and an avenue, they will not be so keen on doing that. The issue of poverty is going to be tackled by food security, which is going to be promoted by the Ministry of Livestock, which was the brainchild of this government. And also, the government is already not just sitting down. Look at the issue of student loans. Do you know that 600,000 Nigerians have actually benefited from student loans? Before student loans, before this government, there was no such thing as student loans. Then, speaking of corruption again, this government increased the salary of judges, because if you can't pay judges well, how are you going to fight corruption? So I think, I've answered the question of how the government is going about tackling all these issues you've brought up. But I would like to urge you again to also think about the state government, because they have a critical role to play. The federal government only gets 48% of the allocation. The rest of the allocation goes to the state and local government. So I want you to also always keep that in mind.
Yes, in fact, because of that, what you just said about the comparison, I would like us to look at the state government, and the local government, because it appears the governors are fully or almost fully in charge of local government. Is this government that actually brought back or resuscitated the value and the independence of the local governments? Do you think that's succeeding with the situation with the state governments?
Yes, it's still ongoing, I mean, it's back and forth. It's very difficult for it to succeed just like that, It's something that is a work in progress, but the government is very, very, very intent on ensuring that it succeeds. Mr. President, being an experienced administrator, governor of Lagos, senator, top shot in Mobile, that he went about it the right way, He, first of all, spoke to the Attorney General. They now approach the Supreme Court to interpret what the local government is, how the local government is supposed to receive its allocation. So it was the Supreme Court judgment that gave room to all actions that the president is taking. That's the kind of president the president is. He does the right things the right way. So it's taking shape, it's working in progress, and I think we have probably reached 75% of where we want to be. And very soon we'll get to the remaining 25%, and everything will take shape fully by the grace of God.
Okay, so let's look at the past and then the present and then the future. Let's focus on the future, because we've really dwelt a lot on the past and the present. How do you see the future of Nigeria based on the effort that you think this government is making?
The future of Nigeria is bright. The future of Nigeria is bright because, unlike before, when government said we are going to take care of Nigeria from selling oil, we're going to take care of Nigeria from foreign loans, this government is actually taking care of Nigerians from creating a very, very, very strong tax regime where they're going to increase the bracket of people that are being taxed, so that they can focus more on taxing the rich. Like what my father was saying when he said he's going to do a system in which he will tax the rich more. This government has a solid plan, because when you have a plan like that, then you have a secure source of income. But what governments have actually not been able to do in the past is that they've not been able to finance their budget and all of that, because the source of income has always been something that is not in their hands. They don't have control about what government is going to earn. But now, government is going to actually enforce a new tax regime. They're going to give government more self-sufficiency. And that is self-sufficiency, and that's what the government needs, because Nigeria is a big country and we cannot afford to fail the people. So the future is bright, and I'm just praying and praying that by the time Mr. President does his 8 years, there will be another president that will actually carry on with this legacy. Because another problem we've had in Nigeria is that somebody does a good job, another person comes and does a bad job. So we keep taking 4 steps forward, 3 steps backward, 4 steps forward, 3 steps backward. At this point, we need to be taking steps forward for a prolonged period of time. And that's my own prayer. But if that can happen, then we will definitely have a very bright future.
Before you go, I would like you to look at the current government vis-a-vis ECOWAS and Africa. What role do you see Nigeria really playing? A giant of Africa, they say we are, but we have a lot of internal problems. And the people of Nigeria, the North and the South, are not feeling united because of the way some people are speaking. What is your advice?
Well, the internal problem in Nigeria, is something that we have to, tackle with maturity. We have to tackle with a lot of love and affection and patience. Because, at the end of the day, this issue of internal problems has been existing from the time of independence, when we got our independence. We only united as one fully.
It's a pity. This is quite a great program that should not have these freezing experiences. This is Soni Irabor Live. As we're about to conclude, we had Jamiu MKO Abiola. I always add the word, the phrase or the acronym MKO. Yes.
Overthrow the West independence, and now started having that in Nigeria. Nigeria is tragedy in them.
Oops. We've, okay. We lost you a bit. Go ahead,
I made an effort to learn a lot of Nigerian languages because of the fact that I want to be detribalized.
Like your father. Good.
Local languages in Nigeria. The fact that I speak 7 international languages, I went ahead to learn 5 local languages. Even when I got married to a woman from Maiduguri. So I'm trying my best to bring this to be more as detribalized as possible. I think we all have to be like that so that this country can move forward. Our diversity is our wealth, and we shouldn't take that for granted.
Well, Mr. Jamiu Abiola, thank you very much for guesting with us on Soni Irabor Live. And it's a pity that we had a bit of hiccup because of the signal from the network. But you did your best to give us the answers the way we wanted you to. And thanks a lot for giving us your time. And we are proud that you are keeping the legacy. Please keep it alive. Thank you so much. It's been Jamiu Abiola on Soni Irabor Live. Thank you very much, and I hope that you've all had a good time. You got enough experiences and enough message from the, interview we just had with Jamiu Abiola. Bye-bye now.